Hi. What do you do when you have done all the things that you are supposed to do? My life began in Bangladesh. Then my parents and we moved to Queens, New York when I was 8 years old. I grew up in a loveless home as my parents were subject to an arranged marriage. So I always had to search for validation and belonging outside of the house. And that, for me, meant riding random New York City subways and buses, heading to unknown neighborhoods and exploring the people there. Queens, New York is made up of many ethnic neighborhoods. You have your Indian neighborhood in Jackson Heights, your Hispanic neighborhood in Corona Plaza, your Korean neighborhood in Flushing Meadows, and so on. Food was the medium through which I was able to connect with these people. I would love it when the people working at the food joints I frequented would welcome me as a valued customer, explain their cuisine to me, and then invite me to hang out in the kitchen. At times, we did not even speak the same language, but good cooking helped us connect. But all that interest in food was just silly and nonsensical to the adults in my life. Nothing to be taken seriously. Having newly arrived to America, I felt great pressure to assimilate and integrate. I did all the things that was expected of a good immigrant in America. Surrender your native culture and language to embrace American values and customs. I reinvented myself. I became the best American I could be. I worked hard in school, won scholarships for a college education, served in the military, and then secured a white-collar job in the sales and trading department of an investment bank on Wall Street. At my first job, it was so exciting to see the theories and concepts that I had just learned in my economics classes in college, how stocks and bonds worked, how a company was valued, how the money supply was regulated, and how interest rates determined the exchange rates of different currencies. I never felt so important in my life. I had a car come and pick me up in the morning and drive me to work. On the ride into Manhattan, I would be scanning the Wall Street Journal. Once in the office, the day would usually start with a briefing by our head economist on the prognosis for the major financial news and reports that were being released that day or week. We were executing and processing such big transactions that you could not help but feel a part of the elite. All day long, we were tracking trading books, investment portfolios, financial markets, and news. I had clients calling me to execute multi-million-dollar trades. I had made it in America. Whew. But then I started noticing something that made me hesitant about the business I was in. I saw that the more money my colleagues and supervisors made, the more they had to work. They proudly boasted about how much more they were working. 14-hour work days, coming to the office on the weekends, taking calls from clients at 4 in the morning. It made me wonder, did I want my whole existence to be about work? So I make all this money, but when do I get to live life? One day at the office, late afternoon, my Swiss Italian colleague, Riccardo Salvatore, asked me if I wanted to hang with him, head downtown Manhattan, and check out some Italian eateries. We hopped on the subway and headed to Greenwich Village. We landed at a small Italian restaurant, and we both ordered risotto. I had never eaten risotto before. As soon as I took one bite, I was in awe. I couldn't understand how a plate of what looked like white porridge could be so delicious, savory, and filling. Risotto immediately became my favorite dish, and I kept returning to that restaurant to try all their new risottos. Eventually, I had to make a lifestyle choice. Do I stay in banking for the easy but meaningless money and status, or do I find something new to do, something much more meaningful? I was tired of mediocrity, so I decided the next thing I did, I would do really well. I searched for something that I can throw my heart and soul into, something with which I could go all in with my resources and existence. What about risotto? Risotto was very close to my heart. Perhaps risotto could lead me to the meaningful and fulfilling life that I was so deeply longing for. Risotto became my answer to the question, what do you do when you have done all the things that you are supposed to do? Risotto would become my portal into a new type of cooking, a new type of socializing, and a new way of appreciating life. Leaving the financial business, I took with me a couple of words of wisdom that I got from my mentors. One, don't sell yourself short. In other words, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to make investments in your well-being, your personal growth, your future. The second advice I took with me was, markets change, industries change, and your job and your purpose will change. And once in a while, you have to reinvent yourself, and you have to do it for the right reasons. You have to look into your heart and find the reasons that are significant to you. So I went to the library to learn Italian, and then I headed down to Italy and started my great risotto journey with zero expectation. I did what I had done in Queens growing up. I roamed and wandered into Italian cities and villages and connected with people through my interest in food. First, I traveled from east to west, from Venice to Torino, along the Po Valley, to learn everything I could about risotto and the cultivation of rice there. Then I traveled from north to south, from Torino to Palermo, to learn about all the other Italian dishes. I found meaning in backpacking around Italy to learn recipes by spending time with grannies, chefs, cheesemakers, butchers, beekeepers. But my most cherished moments were those spent with farmers, people who worked with their hands, with the soil, with the land, people who had dirt lodged under their fingernails, people who were in tune with the weather, how the climate was changing, the seasons. I met farmer Pier Rondolino in Piemonte. He is a man extremely passionate about growing rice and insisted that I stay with him to understand all aspects of growing the best risotto rice in the world. Early in his life, young Piero had to make a decision whether to stay or leave his family farm. The situation in the 1960s and 70s was that farmers were not paid very much for what they grew. But Piero decided not to give up. He decided to think long-term and work smarter. Piero decided to find a way to create the Rolls Royce of risotto rice, and he decided to start selling it directly to consumers, bypassing all the middlemen. In Sicily, I met Marco Melli, a young engineer who unexpectedly had to take over the family's 400 pistachio trees on the foothills of volcano Etna. From the very beginning, Marco decided that he was going to do things differently, and he was going to promote biodiversity and grow biological nuts. Today, he is dedicating all his energy into growing the most environmentally friendly pistachio nuts on Sicily, despite problems and resistance from the mafia-run bureaucracy on Sicily. And then in Tuscany, I met with Elia Renzi, who inherited a few hectares of land with olive trees from his grandfather, and now is committed to preserving the taste of his olive oil for future generations while combating the many problems caused by climate change. He said to me, "This is not just about olive oil. It's my heritage. It's who I am, a part of my DNA." Elia promotes biodiversity by choosing not to use pesticides, by making room for beekeepers, and by growing shrubs alongside his olive trees that promote the nutritional value of the soil. These are just 3 of the thousands of farmers out there who are prioritizing the environment and quality over quantity. The odds are stacked against them. They are in need of ambassadors and chefs that champion their produce. I found a new role for myself. I returned home, went to cooking school, and my risotto journey became a book. I found meaningfulness and fulfillment in cooking, teaching, and writing about the stories I had discovered in Italy. And that has become my answer on how to live life. Search and find what you are passionate about, then use your passion for a greater good and all-encompassing good. I would recommend all of you to adopt a farmer. I encourage you to seek out a local farmer and start a dialogue about the food that he or she grows. Ask them about how things are going and what challenges they are working to overcome. I kid you not, it is so cool and meaningful to put a name and face to a food that gives you nutrition. Thank you.